Hello. Some people like to use an Italic Nib, but they're not terribly widely available these days, particularly on less expensive pens. You can get one on a Conway Stewart. They have fine, medium and broad italics available, and with other pens you can get them, but by and large you have to send them away to get an italic fixed, or you have to send it to a nibmeister who will grind one for you. However, Lamy do an inexpensive and pleasant series of pens, the Joy, which have a 1.1, 1.5 and 1.9mm stub nib on them. Now, I'm going to have a quick go with them to show you the sort of results that you might hope to get from them. Okay, so what is an Italic Nib? Well, basically it's got to give a variation in line width depending on which way you use it. Now, I'm right-handed and I'm holding the nib at about 45 degrees to the page, and when I go from left to right it gives me a line like that, and when I go from right to left it gives me a much broader line, and if it comes straight down you get quite a broad line. And that's basically what it is. Now, it does this obviously by being cut slightly differently from ordinary round nibs. So an Italic nib typically will look something like this in section. Now, you'll notice that the ends here are rounded and the cut through the nib will be there. That's what's called a cursive italic, because you can just go around corners with it basically. There's also something called a formal italic, and that's cut pretty much absolutely square. Now, with this sort of nib, there might well be a little bit of rounding at the edges, but with this sort of nib it has to be held at absolutely the right angle to the page, otherwise you will cut the paper. It's that sharp. But it gives an even clearer definition between different strokes than you get with the cursive italic, which is much more sensible for ordinary writing. So this is the Lamy Joy. This is the 1.91, which gives us obviously the largest variation because it's the broadest nib. And so if one was capable of writing properly, you get a really nice effect like that. And obviously variations in line width, which add interest and a little bit of style to your writing. But as you can see, this is quite a broad nib, and it isn't particularly suitable for everyday writing. You have to use it. You have to do quite large letters to make it work well. So Lamy also do the 1.1 nib, and here we go. And as you'll see, you're still getting much the same sort of effect, but not quite so clearly defined. Well, you're probably thinking they're both absolutely fine, but one's a bit thin and one's a bit broad, and what I'd really like is something in between. And so here we are. This is the 1.5 nib, but as you've noticed, it's not on one of the Lamy Joy pens. One of the beauties of Lamy, as I've said elsewhere, is that the nibs are totally interchangeable. So for any steel nib Lamy pen, you can put any nib you like on it. And what I've got here is my own studio, and I've put a 1.5 Joy nib on it. So, and this is a pen that works for me for everyday writing. As you can see, it doesn't help me a great deal because I'm really beyond help with this sort of thing. But it is a nice pen. It does improve my handwriting quite significantly. I enjoy using it. And as I say, it's a nib that can go on any of Lamy's steel nib pens. So that's the Joy. That's a little bit about italic nibs and how they're cut, and a small idea of what you can do with them. So the best thing to do, I think, is get hold of one for yourself and play with it a bit. I would also point out that we do a set of these with all 3 nibs, and that will cost you just under £40, but worth every penny. So there you have it, Italic Nibs.